Hello everyone and welcome back to Not So Skill. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at this. This is a Tamiya TT-02R with a Subaru Impreza WRC Monte-Carlo 2007 body shell. And wow, this thing's a beauty. The body has some great detail even if it is just a Lexan shell. It comes with hard plastic side mirrors and rear wing. It also comes with light buckets which can be fitted with LEDs. Overall, amazing body, and the decals come pre-cut which saved me time in completing it. Moving on to the chassis. Nothing too special about it, it's just a TT-02, but this R variant of the TT-02 does come with a few hop-ups that don't come with the base model TT-02. Some notable hop-ups are the ball bearings, CVA oil dampers, aluminum propeller shaft and joints, aluminum motor mount, and aluminum rear uprights with 3 degrees of toe-in. You can check the video description to see the full list of hop-ups that come with the kit. The build. Since this thing is a kit, you do have to build it. With these Tamiya RC kits, building is a large part of the experience. Before you can run them, you have to spend time building them. For someone like me who loves to tinker with stuff, an RC kit is a great choice over ready-to-run options. You also get the benefit of knowing how to fix your RC if it breaks since you assembled it yourself and are familiar with how it is put together. The kit wasn't too difficult and Tamiya's instructions were superb, so it was a very fun build. Inside the box, you can see the different parts which make up the TT-02. Here is the tub chassis. Taking a look at the manual, we can see the different ways which we can set up the car. You have 2 different wheelbase settings and 2 different ride height settings. The wheelbase setting will depend on which body you will use, so make sure to check the body set instructions for the appropriate wheelbase setting. Now the kit comes with JIS tapping screws, but I did buy some 3x10mm button head and countersunk hex screws to use in place of some of the JIS screws. The main advantage to using hex hardware is it can handle more torque when tightening it, and the screwdriver won't slip unlike with JIS and Phillips screws. If you do choose to use the screws that come with the kit, I highly recommend getting a JIS screwdriver. It will make your life much easier. The kit starts off with building the drivetrain. Some of the gears are attached to the parts tree or sprues, so you have to snip them off using flush cutters. After snipping them off, there will be some plastic knobs which you can cut off with flush cutters or a hobby knife. Removing these plastic knobs will help ensure that your gears run smoothly and will prevent excess wear and tear. The high-speed gear set comes with a kit, so you get the aluminum spur mount, which is needed if you want to use aftermarket gears. The instructions tell you to use either the 68 tooth or 64 tooth spur. I opted for the 68 tooth spur with a 27 tooth pinion, which was adequate gearing for just running on streets and parking lots. After attaching the front and rear joints, you can now drop the propeller shaft onto the chassis, making sure that the ball bearings are seated properly. And there we go, it spins freely. I actually made a small mistake when I used the G2 gear instead of the GB2. Part GB2 is the bevel pinion gear on both ends of the propeller shaft. The 2 GB2 gears are just in the plastic bag not connected to the G parts tree. The G2 in the parts tree is supposed to go in the differential. Here I'm just attaching the correct gears to the ends of the propeller shaft. The TT-02R uses a plastic gear differential, which isn't sealed, so it can't be tuned with different weight diff oil. I did however apply the Tamiya anti-wear grease to tighten the diffs a bit, which will help in pulling the car out of corners. Here we have the completed diff. Time to drop it in and make sure it spins freely. Just add some grease, then install the cover. Here you can see me installing the upper arms. There we go, the propeller shaft and diffs are in and the upper arms are installed. Step 11 is about attaching the motor to the motor mount. I didn't have the motor yet, so I will be installing that at the later part of the build when the motor arrives. The next part is about attaching the lower arms. The manual tells you to apply grease, and I did, but when I ran it, the grease just allowed more dirt to stick to the parts and made them more difficult to clean. I think it will be fine without grease, but if you want to apply grease, only apply a small amount and don't overdo it. Moving on to the front and rear uprights, another upgrade that comes with the TT-02R are the metal drive shafts and gearbox joints. The rear uprights are aluminum and have 3 degrees of toe-in, which adds stability to the car. And that blue aluminum is just so cool, you know. Yeah, it looks so good. Time to assemble the shocks. These are oil-filled dampers, which are a great upgrade over the stock TT-02 friction shocks. I used cardboard with holes to hold the shocks while waiting for the air bubbles to go away. After screwing on the cap, I compressed the shocks without the spring and I noticed that the shaft rebounded. If you successfully eliminated the air bubbles, the shaft shouldn't go out on its own, but even after rebuilding the shocks, the rebound was still there. After doing some research, I found out that this is common with the Tamiya plastic CVAs because of the design of the rubber seal, which allowed some air to remain inside the shock. Not really a problem since the TT-02R really isn't a high-end race kit. For just bashing around parking lots, the plastic oil-filled shocks that come with the kit are fine and a really great improvement over the stock TT-02 friction shocks. The next part of the build is the steering linkage assembly. Nothing too complicated, it just needed to attach some ball connectors and build turnbuckles. You do have to cut 2mm off the turnbuckle ends to achieve the 38mm length specified on the manual. One thing to note is the direction in which you build the turnbuckles. There's actually a small mark or indentation in the turnbuckle, and I just built the turnbuckles with the indentation on the left side as shown on the manual. Also be careful when you grab these with pliers because they can just fly off. Here I applied grease to the screws which hold the steering arms in place. The screw just slides in, then a metal spacer is added. When you screw it in, Don't over tighten it so the steering moves freely. The turnbuckles just snap onto the ball connectors. Here are the wheels and tires. The kit comes with medium narrow racing slick tires which mount onto black 10-spoke wheels. The tires also come with foam inserts. Mounting the tires were not too difficult, just be careful when you stretch them so you don't damage the foam inside. Now that the tires are mounted, it's starting to look like a car. Now it's time to screw on the body posts. The longer ones go on the rear and the short ones go on the front of the chassis. You can mount the rear posts in two different positions, so just attach them based on your chosen body. You just have to slide the bumper on and hold it in place with a plastic piece and 2 screws. There we have it. We're almost done with the chassis. I just need to install the electronics and attach the steering servo to complete the steering assembly. Of course, I also need to paint the body. All of these will be in the second part of the TT-02R build series, so stay tuned for that. And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that video. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.